Showtime. Boom.
It's time.
It's
It's
that
time.
time. Don't you know what time it is?
It's time. If you
What
don't know,
time is
now
it?
you know. I tell you
Now
what,
you
it's
know.
that time, man. It's showtime, baby. It's showtime. If you don't know, now you know. I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the madmen of masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
And right now I'm looking down at my phone because I'm hitting share. Even though my looks like my Wi-Fi is a little slow and jittery or whatever, I don't care, man. I'm still hitting share
We can
because I
still hear you
care.
okay. We can still hear you
You
okay.
know,
Yeah,
because
sharing is
if you
caring.
care, you would hit share. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're
It's
watching
time.
this, you know it's
It's time
free.
to
All you gotta do
share.
is go to the bottom of the right underneath there and just hit share. Boom, share and whatever that next blue button is. But that's all you gotta hit, man. You know, holla at your boys, man.
You
You know
can
what I'm
hit a
saying?
thumbs up too. You can hit a heart. I mean, you got all kinds of
What's up?
options.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because this is your home for healthy masculinity.
Yes, it is. Yes,
You
it
know what I'm
is.
saying?
And speaking of healthy masculinity, I think
Yo,
today
we got a
we're
good topic today, man.
we're gonna talk something about what is a high value man, and I think
A high value man,
mhm,
HVM.
HVM, and I think we're
HVM.
gonna
I need some
go
high
off the
value
rails.
internet is what I need. I need some high
Yes, you
value
do.
internet. I'm
I
about
ain't
to
gonna
make a
lie, you
phone
do.
call when we get off of this bad boy, man. Because
Yep.
me and your boy Comcast, we got to talk. You know what I'm saying? Because
Comcast, you need to step
I'm
your
not
game up.
I'm not getting what I'm supposed to be getting on this bad boy. Anyhow, yeah, man, we talking about high value man in our shortened version. We always do our
Mhm.
longer version for the radio recording at the beginning of the week, hour long, and you get to see the behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. And then we come back and we give you the show Ito. You know what I'm saying?
The smallest.
We give you a little
We try to
smaller
condense it
size.
down for you.
Yeah,
We'll do our best to do that tonight. It's the same thing, you know. These topics are we can dig in for a while, though. I
yep.
think this one we might be able to condense it down, but we'll see. We'll do our
Maybe,
best.
maybe, maybe. This is like the
But
Happy
make sure
Meal
you.
version of the combo
It
meal.
is. It is a Happy Meal version. But make sure
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
if you're on Facebook watching us, go to Madmen and Masculine or Madmen Radio on Facebook, and you can comment there. We'll see it live. We can post your comments on the screen. Let them know you're out there. Know you love us, and or you can go to YouTube, and I believe we'll see those comments as well on YouTube. So
Boom. That'd be
pick your
dope.
poison. Pick
So
your
we talking
poison.
about high value men today, man. We talking
Yes,
about this
sir.
week anyway. This week's topic
Mhm.
is high value men. Um,
Or what is a
and
high value man?
That's a great question, man. And I think it's worth starting off with the fact that I think there's a difference between value and worth, and
Yes.
the comparison between the two. You know, the guy goes to the Antique Roadshow with his Louis the 14th, bedpan. And the guy says, "Oh, this is an original Louis the 14th bedpan. It was probably used by him. As a matter of fact, you can see it, smell. Anyhow, and he gets all into the ins and outs of it and all that kind of stuff. And then he says, this thing is worth, $28,000. And it's
Wow.
okay. That's the worth.
Mhm.
But in my opinion, the value is what somebody's gonna pay for that thing. You ain't
Right.
gonna bring that to me trying to tell me you want $28,000 for a Louis the 14th bedpan that he probably used, and you can even see a little evidence in it. That ain't gonna do nothing for me. So on the open market, that does not have the current value. And so like Kelly Blue Book, it tells you the Kelly Blue Book value. That is what that particular car or vehicle in that condition is going for. And so
Mhm.
so to me, there's a big difference between value and worth.
Yeah, I mean, there is that internal value, there's that internal worth, which is priceless and all that. Although there's the extrinsic value as well, and I think especially for men, we're judged a lot on our extrinsic value or our quote unquote value in the world by what we provide or what we contribute. I think it's something that we're just taught as young men that you're only going to be valued by what you contribute in the world. And I think one of the biggest kind of things that's irritating when it comes to high value men or what people consider high value men is that they always want to add that dollar sign to it. Like they only think that a man is valuable if he has a big wallet, a big bank account. And I think, yeah, you got to take care of your bills. You got to provide for your family and things. But I don't think the money aspect is the biggest contributing factor to what a high value man is. I think that's a factor, though. I don't think focusing so much on being a millionaire and a Jeff Bezos and all those things actually makes you a high value man. I think that's only a small component because I believe it's really more about the contribution. Like, what are you contributing and how are you contributing? And if you are making money and lots of money and using that money to help contribute to change the world and to make the world a better place, make yourself a better man, and make your dent in the universe. That might make you a high value man, though. Thinking that you're a high value man just because you have a big bank account doesn't necessarily translate to being a high value man.
All the external stuff. It's kind of easy for us to put external metrics on that. It's like the NFL and other sports. They'll put their prospective draftees through a combine, and they give them all the measurables. How many reps can you do on the bench? What's your vertical? What's your 40? What's this? What's your that? And they put every guy through the same through the same motions, through the same exercises or whatever, and then they compare them all. But even in that context, even in that word picture, there's a big difference between a running back, a wide receiver, and an offensive lineman running the 40, right? And so even on the outside measurables, it totally depends on what your role is going to be on the team. And so every guy does not have the same, we might be able to measure some things the same, but depending on the role, then I mean, whatever that measurable is may or may not be equally, as valuable.
Yeah, and when we're looking at, like, you're talking about the outer measurables, the outer performance things or whatever, the external things doesn't necessarily lead you to being a high value man because of all those differences. Because that always leads to comparison. All the external stuff, especially when it comes to money and wealth and items, houses, cars, things like that. It's always comparable. There's always going to be somebody that has a bigger house and nicer car and bigger bank account and all those different things. And so when you're looking at those external things, there's always going to be a moving goalpost. That goalpost is going to get pushed back because, oh well, if I just made 100K a year, I'd be happy. Oh well, now I'm making 100K a year. Oh well, so and so is making quarter million a year, so and he's got a nicer house, a nicer car, and et cetera, et cetera. So now that goalpost is moved, and so as you go up, there's always going to be a bigger, better thing, the bigger, better deal down the road that you're going to look at. So not looking necessarily at the external things, but going more towards attaching your value to your internal worth of, like you were saying, what's your role? What are the things you're strong at? What are the things you're good at? What is your unique gift and how are you contributing that to the world? Does that make you more of a high value man? In my opinion, it does, because you're using your God given gifts to better yourself and the world at large.
Yeah. When we get into the comparison game, that's where I think us as men are set up for failure. Regardless, to your point, somebody's always going to have more. Somebody's always going to be bigger, faster, stronger. Somebody's going to have better BMI or can do more push-ups or whatever it is. And maybe one thing that you might be strong in, somebody else might be strong in the other thing, et cetera, et cetera. And so us guys, and some of these conversations we have, we speak for men. Some of these conversations we speak to men. This might be a combination of both. Because it's perspective, and I think when we get into the comparison game is when men get frustrated, and when men begin to feel the not enoughs and the failure and the I came up short, especially in the kind of the midpoint, the halftime show of life. When we get into 40s, late 40s, early 50s, all those kinds of things, we start to evaluate. And it's like, man, when I look back at everybody I graduated high school with, their house is bigger than mine, their car is newer than mine, they're going on this trip and that trip, and their wife looks happier, their kids look happy, they're better dad, they never been divorced, they actually got married, I didn't. I mean, you begin to compare all of these things across the board. And then that's when you start to question yourself, and to your point, the way you put it, that's when guys start to say, man, maybe I don't have any kind of value, maybe I don't have any kind of worth, and maybe I just need to go ahead and self cancel. And that's where we hit our midlife crisis, and that's where we reach that frustration of okay, I'm not enough, and then that begins to out some kind of lash out at world or society or people around us.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult not to compare yourself, especially when it comes to those things, these quote unquote societal norms. I know I've had dates before ask me, well, you're this age, and most people by that age have X, Y, and Z, and you have a different experience, or you don't have those things, and why not? And basically, like, is that a red flag? What's your story, kind of thing? And that's part of that comparison thing that a lot of men get. They go, well, you don't have this amount of money, So I'm not considering you a high value man. It was like, well, there's so many other things. I consider the three C's. Character, contribution, and compassion are really the big three C's. I think that really make a high value man, because without character, you are lacking in one of the big things that makes you the unique high value man that you can be, without contributing that character to the world, to something bigger than yourself, to whatever you're doing to make a dent in the universe, dent in the world,
Mhm.
and then having compassion for other men and the world, so that you can be a bigger contributor, so that you have a bigger goal in life than just making dollars and getting a bigger house. Because what we're seeing is a lot of those folks that go in just the money focused direction become I don't want to say disenchanted, but maybe they're just not as tuned in to what's going on with the rest of the world. They're so focused on this intangible thing of how much money is enough. And for a lot of the guys that are self canceling in their midlife, it's because I believe they've forgotten the contribution aspect. They are looking at and comparing themselves to all these other guys, or to the societal norms, saying, "Well, I'm 40 something and I don't have a big mansion, and I don't have, I'm not traveling the world and this and that. So there must be something wrong with me." I don't think that's it. Everybody has a different path in life. Some of us are late bloomers. Some of us just went a different way. But you have to find your own unique gift, which you find within yourself, in your own worth and your own unique background, and find whatever that is that you can contribute to. Because I guarantee you, if you're making a small contribution each day, even if it's just giving $20 to the homeless guy on the corner, or helping somebody put their cart back, or just being a good human being, that will help you get through those times when you're depressed and down and don't feel like you're of much worth or value. Those are things that will at least get you through that day, one day at a time, until you find something that is part of your character that you want to contribute, and create something bigger in the world.
Yeah, the difference is, contribution versus production.
Yeah.
I think if we focus more as men on what are we contributing and less on what we're producing, which is contrary to culture. I mean, culture wants to measure us by what we produce and not what we contribute, because, like I said, it's measurable. You can measure production. You can't necessarily measure contribution. You can't necessarily measure the person you made smile at the grocery store, or the homeless person you bought a combo meal for, or gave some money to, or whatever it is. You can't you can't measure that kind of stuff. So culture wants us to measure ourselves by production, and ultimately, I think if we just work on our why and our purpose, which was kind of one of our last topics, and focus on that, making a difference in the world, then I think that's those are the important things. Those are the things that outlive us. Everything that you produce one day is gonna fall short. Oh, we
Yep.
love you, Jenna. You are a fantastic character. Can't be bought with money. It is absolutely priceless, and those kind of things are the intangibles, and those are the things we need to focus on more and more and more, as opposed to what kind of things am I producing. I brought up the idea the other day that in his lifetime, of course, he had a fairly short lifetime, but in his lifetime, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't very productive in terms of the money that he made or his net worth. His family wasn't, blinging all over the place. They weren't, going on these. I mean, they went on family trips and vacations, but they weren't living the high life. Matter of fact, it was pretty modest. And in terms of family. But if you look at his contribution, was huge. Every city in America has a Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. He has a holiday, named after him. At this point, his estate is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. And it may or may not be causing rifts even within his family in terms of his kids and stuff. So, I mean, and so the contribution is a thing that outlives you. Everything you own, everything you produce, everything you have in your production will be somebody else's one day. All of your debt, all of your assets, maybe your wife, maybe your kids in terms of step, whatever, and all those kinds of things. But your legacy, nobody else can have. The legacy, the wake that you leave behind as your ship moves through the ocean, nobody else can replace that. Nobody else can recreate that. So let's focus on that as men, and not so much all the other stuff, that'll be somebody else's one day anyway.
Yeah, I think when you look at whatever your character is, and use that to find your contribution, then you're not necessarily chasing something that has a moving goalpost, like all the dollars and things, because we see all over the place all these millionaires who are miserable, because they're just chasing whatever this moving goalpost is of how much money can you get. Once you get past it enough to pay your bills and provide for your family and everything, there is no increase in happiness for as far as the increase in income. What the increase in happiness comes from is your contribution, whatever it is that's going to outlive you, that's going to become your legacy. And those are the things that if you focus on and you focus on however that is, and it's going to be different for each guy. Maybe you're an artist and it's about creating that picture or that sculpture or their music, and that's your contribution. Maybe you're a people person and it's about helping others or working with others or helping guys, go through something that you've been through. And that's why looking at your past and looking through your challenges and traumas is really a great way of finding out what your contribution can be and what your purpose may be, like we talked about last episode, because a lot of times it's just you sharing your story and letting other guys know they're not alone or that they can get through it too. And that will show you like, oh, this is a whole nother path, and not this will pay so much more dividends than how much I got in the bank. It could give you it fills your heart, it fills your soul. It's not about just putting money in the bank. It's about affecting others, and that's that contribution and compassion part that really affects what becomes a high value man, because you're making ripples and waves through other people's lives. It's not just about accumulation. It's about contribution and giving out and giving back.
Hey, and just to reset here, obviously we are the Mad Men of Masculinity. We're talking about high value men today, and the ins and outs of all that kind of stuff. I want to invite anybody out there, man. We are absolutely open. We're looking for people that want to partner with our show. Anybody that wants to invest in your business and healthy masculinity, partner with us. It'd be a great opportunity. If you're watching this right now, so a whole bunch of other people, it'd be a great opportunity to throw a little plug in, plug in for you right here in the middle of this show. So reach out to us. We'd love to do that, and help contribute to this legacy. This brought what we're doing right now in this moment is going to outlive us. This is going to be on YouTube and the internet forever. I mean, and so this is an absolute example of ideally a way that men can contribute, kind of long living and outlive them. I mean, it's even biblical. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? I mean, what does it profit you to have all the stuff, to have a dope house down in Castle Pines or whatever the rich neighborhood is, and have all the this and all the that and whatever, but have a miserable household, to have a miserable marriage, have a miserable kid. Oh, by the way, you can have all that stuff and your marriage fall apart. Guess what? You ain't gonna have none of that afterwards. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Somebody else gonna be taking your kids on vacation, et cetera, et cetera. You're gonna be help paying for it, by the way. So all these things, we got to keep our priorities straight in terms of what the value and the worth is, and especially our contribution as opposed to our production.
Yeah, I mean, to that example, we're doing something that we would do anyway and just sharing it, and we have no idea who this is going to affect. I had no idea that this would affect family members and old friends and have a positive impact on people. We were just these are the conversations we would normally be having, and it's just something that out of our natural character and personalities we would do anyway, and decided to share it. So it could be just as easy as that. You could be looking for something that can be your purpose, something that will raise your value, your intrinsic value in the world and for yourself. And it could just be something that you're doing anyway. Maybe you need to share with others that could end up being that ripple and that wave that you create in the world, and create that dent in the universe that betters the world. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be some huge thing. It could be something small, and all big things start small anyway. So planting seeds and watering it and finding what it is that you can plant, and really it's thinking externally, because when we get so stuck, I think a lot of times for most men nowadays, especially in midlife, we get so stuck internally, thinking internally, and we get so stuck looking in the mirror that we forget it's really about our contribution externally. And if you want to build here, you want to build in your heart, then it's about what you're contributing externally. So I've said it before, if you whatever you want to have in life, give that thing. If you want, to have more abundance and more love and more charity and more compassion, give those things and they'll come back to you tenfold.
Now I think there is a component of production that, and what I mean by that is, I think we should be contributing financially to our home. I think we should be we should be one of the aspects that I think we should be at least somewhat focused on is building up our blessing to the next generation or the people around us or whatever you want to call it. So none of this is an excuse to sit on the couch and and not actually contribute anything. If you have kids, you need to be taking care of your kids. When my daughter called me yesterday and at Costco ready to, somehow she got there and realized she didn't have money for some AirPods, and she hit the ATM code, which is my phone number, and hit me up. Yeah, I Venmoed her money because I had it at the moment, and so I think we should be in the place of contributing and blessing others around us. But that shouldn't be the measure of our success. And where we get that level of affirmation and validation should definitely not be from the women in our lives, and it definitely should not be from the kids in our lives. I mean, we none of that should come from any one of those because if you have ever been on that treadmill, you know that it can be pretty low return on that investment.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to those external things, relationships like that, I mean, your foundation needs to come internally so that you can be the best contributor to your kids and your family and to the world around you. When you don't have that foundation, you don't have that purpose, your why, you don't know, well, what is my why? And, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Then you get blown around by the storms and of the world. And it's very hard to stand your ground and say no and to be of um, strong masculine energy when you don't know, well, why am I here? What am I doing? What is my purpose? And so having that character, that internal character, so that you can contribute outwardly and have that foundation so that you can stand strong during the storms of life and be that rock for the family and be that contributor for those around you. And that's where we as men build that internal value. And once we have our purpose and our why, and you stand up with your head up and you look, the top 4 feet of, you look up, not down, and you walk into a room with that energy, you are presenting more high value. And that comes from that internal strength. And you know who you are, what you're contributing, what your character is, and then you can have compassion to other people about what they're going through and maybe even guide them through that. And if you've ever helped anybody who's going through a rough time, even if it's just sitting with them and letting them know they're not alone, they feel so much better, but so do you. And I think a lot of times when you help people, you feel even more better than they do because you are adding that in contribution and compassion. You're showing character and strength as a man. So those are just the things we want you to look at if you want to be a high value man. It's not just about the dollars. Now you got to have dollars, you got to have the bank account, you got to be able to feed yourself. It's really hard to be of contribution if you're homeless, but even if you're
Mm-hmm.
homeless, honestly, you could help other homeless people or whatever. It's just better if you are more comfortable, well fed, healthy, that you can contribute from a place of strength.
Yeah, I mean, we could easily, if we, chase kind of that external validation, if we chase all those things, man, we could end up running ourselves ragged, working, trying to produce something, trying to live up to some Facebook standard that ain't even real. In terms of the comparison and all that kind of stuff, and I think a lot of people kind of get caught up in it. I need to be seen as like the perfect dad and all this other kind of stuff. And shoot, when I was growing up, man, Cliff Huxtable was the perfect dad, and we know, you know what I'm saying. So, but in actuality, when I really look back at it, man, James Evans was the perfect dad. Good times, man. They lived in a ghetto, but man, everybody remember that episode when he died, man. When he died, and Florida was standing there by that picture, and she, damn, damn, damn. I mean, how devastating it was, man. I remember crying when he died on that
Yeah.
episode, man. And so, so ultimately looking back, it wasn't the the guy that was the doctor, and his wife was a lawyer, and he had the great kids, and they were having this perfect life. It ultimately, in the long run, I look back and I'm like, man, it was the guy that worked hard, came home, and he was part of his kid's life. And when he left, when he was gone, that space collapsed around the entire family and the whole dynamic shifted. That's who we should be shooting for as a high value man. And if you're a woman out there, that's who you should be looking for as a high value man. Not a man that's trying to prove something to the world, but a man that's creating a legacy for the world to experience, even after he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. You don't want the all frosting, no cake kind of guy. You don't. You'll want to look pretty on the outside with no nothing on the inside, and that inside piece is that character and and that contribution and compassion piece where he knows who he is. He has a strong foundation and personal identity. He knows what he's contributing to the world, and he's also living from compassion. And if you are attracted to the guy with the bling and the cars and all those things, fine. Just make sure he's got character and he is contributing. If he doesn't, then maybe get him to take you on a trip or something, but have a nice meal, but that's not the one you want to stay with because he's looking for something externally. He doesn't have the internal validation. He doesn't have the thing inside him that makes him know this is who I am, this is what I'm doing in the world, I am a man versus, a lot of we talk about nice guy syndrome so much, especially, in the beginning with this podcast that, nice guys are always looking externally for validation, especially from their ladies. And most ladies will if the man is making you his source of validation, he becomes very creepy and stalky, and you just don't like him. It's always the guy who has that he has the internal strength and something he's contributing to, something he's building, something that's bigger than himself that he's working towards, and that's the guy that you find sexy and attractive, and that's the one that can be high value. Now you can't be his only purpose, you can't be his number one thing, but you want to be the supporting character, you want to be the biggest support probably in what he's contributing, and especially if you find a man who does something that you can add to. If you can work together and build something together, that's a great way to make a strong foundation for a relationship, a long lasting relationship. But if he's making you his only purpose, then if he's looking to you for validation, then he hasn't found his internal validation, he hasn't found his internal rock and strength, and doesn't know what his true character is.
Yeah, and if he is living on the outside, if he's driving a car he can't afford, living in a house he can't afford. I mean, if he's got a McDonald's job, but he's living a Wall Street lifestyle, that might be an indication. I mean, that he's looking for that validation, and if he's looking for validation from you, then at some point he'll probably be looking for validation for somebody else because yours may either wane or it'll become less significant to him. And if he's looking to prove something to the world on the outside, if he's living above his means and outside of his means, just for the sake of the look, just for the sake of the floss, all those kinds of things, then then that's a guy that he hasn't accepted something inside of him. He hasn't accepted kind of his identity, he hasn't accepted his place in life. He hasn't accepted all kinds of things, and so that could be a huge red flag if I was a woman, or if I was advising a woman to in terms of a guy that you look for. Is he secure in what he has and what he doesn't have? And so wow, Jenna's on it. You go, girl. I'm glad we gave. We did something. We're done. Mic drop. I ain't gonna drop this mic.
We're making a
'cause it's
contribution.
nice.
Don't
We're
drop.
making a contribution right now. Something she never considered. But I mean, and a lot of guys will do that. They'll floss. They'll bring you all the overdo it in the beginning, all those kinds of things. And like I said, especially if you examine his life, if he's living outside of his means, if he's driving a really nice car, but he wipes down sweaty benches at the gym, might be a red flag that something ain't right. And like I said, even if he's impressed by yours might not be enough at some point, and he's gonna probably need to be impressed by somebody else's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's that external thing. There's that old I need to find somebody to complete me. You complete me. No. That's bad. Red flag, run away. You should be a whole complete person on your own. Know who you are, know your character, know what you're contributing, and live from compassion. And those are the guys. They're not usually as flashy. I know there's guys, high value men, who have the character and all that, and they are flashy because that's just their personality. That's how they like to roll. But a lot of times, to Kirk's point, if they got all the frosting and all the pretty wrappings and stuff like that, but inside they're broke. I mean, that's going to end up being your bill. If they're not handling their business and living within their means and living from a point of purpose and contribution in the world, then they're going to be looking to you to be their purpose, and they're just only going to be trying to contribute to you, and you're going to end up being just overrun by this poor guy trying to get validation and acceptance and his purpose from you. And I've seen some ladies talk about being in that situation, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't
Hmm.
pretty at all. So make sure you're looking and taking your time. I think a lot of times now in our fast food swipe right culture, we don't take the time to dig in. And a lot of times you miss a good high value man, and men will miss a good high value woman because you just look at the frosting. You're not actually getting into the who are they in depth and having those conversations. Who are you? What are you doing? What are you contributing? Do you understand your traumas and are you working on those? I mean, they may be not sexy, uncomfortable conversations, but those are the conversations that you have, especially in the dating market, that will lead you down the road towards a strong foundational relationship that can last maybe a lifetime.
Yeah, all frosting and no cake will give you nothing but cavities, and a whole lot of wrapping paper might make a pretty present. But that has nothing to do with the gift inside. It could be an empty gift inside, and so you got to be careful about all that kind of stuff. And again, we as men, we got to value the cake more than the frosting, and we have to value the gift more than the present. But be present in all of those. And so I think in terms of that high value man, maybe to land this thing on the runway, I think in terms of the high value man, I think it starts from within and it radiates out. And to me, legacy means more than bling. I think wealth and health and all those other things are part of it, but that it's not all the things that can be measured, that can be put on
Yeah,
a combine, on a stat sheet.
yeah, yeah. I think it's looking at a man, a high value man from who has all the tires full. You know, his mental, his emotional, his spiritual, and his material or financial.
Hmm.
He's focused on having all of those tires at the right psi and having his uh, car running smoothly. So
Yeah.
these are the things that we are working on ourselves. These are the things we're helping other men
Hmm.
work on. We are doing this to have some sort of impact, and we would like to be able to partner with other men and you ladies as well to help heal men
Hmm.
and to create more healthy masculinity in the world because
Yeah.
to Kirk's point, the masculine is the tide, and as we heal the tide and that tide rises, all ships rise. So it's going to be not just for us, not just for you, but for our legacy, for our progeny, for the next generation. This is what we're here to do as our contribution for you, and let us know how we can contribute, with topics or with things you're worried about, or even if you just want to have us contribute in another way, just let us know because we're hoping that this is going to grow and grow and grow, and we can have a bigger impact and impact more men and be a bigger contribution in the world. And we need your help to do that. So please like and share. Go to Facebook and comment. Go to YouTube and subscribe. Go on Spotify and like and subscribe. We're on. We're all over the interwebs now, and on
Yeah.
KLDC 12:20 a.m. Saturdays at 8 and Wednesdays at 6. You can listen to us, and you can share it with your
Absolutely.
friends, families, all the munchkins.
I mean, a high value man is secure, and high value men are secure, and when we as men are more secure, the world is more secure, families are more secure. To your point, man, when the tide comes in, all boats rise. So that's why we do this, and we love each and every one of y'all, man, and until next time, when we see y'all next week. Hey, madmenradio.com. Holla at us,
That's right.
madmenradio.com. Check it out. Check out the new website. We doing some things. We stepping things up a little bit. So
Yeah,
so
if
we
if
will
you
see
ever
y'all.
just wanting to find an episode or you're not sure where to go, just go to madmenradio.com. It's got all the links there, and you can email us. You can tell us how much you like looking at us or hate looking at
Yeah.
us, or if you think we're
Yeah.
punks and chumps. Let us know. We'll have a good laugh about
Yeah.
it.
And to that point, madmen out.
Good night and good riddance.